And on behalf of my sister Laura, my mom Jean, and our whole family, we want to thank you for being here today to celebrate my dad's life. Well, the world would be a better place if more people were like my dad. My dad was a creator. He created food through gardening. That was a skill and love passed down from his father. And he shared the crops with his friends. And his gardens, he even had a garden a few decades ago that was like 10,000 square feet. He really could garden. He also created buildings, and he taught me some how to build. One of my favorite memories is of building a playhouse in the backyard. A lot of us used, I learned a lot of useful skills on that project, and a lot of others like it. My sister and I, we loved using that playhouse. Sometimes it was a fort, sometimes it was filled with games, other times it was Laura's secret society, where they had all sorts of very important neighborhood meetings, but you'll actually have to ask her what was in those meetings, because it was a strictly no boys allowed meeting. Right? So whether it was sleepovers or it was just a place for our imaginations to roam, my dad knew that he had built a place that we loved. So I used that knowledge. In college, we actually built a few lofts for myself and some friends in college, but then I moved back to Panama City, and he helped me build my first home. In Florida, you're allowed to be your own general contractor once per year. So while I was technically the general contractor, my dad did a lot of the heavy lifting, the planning and the coordination. And he suggested, and I readily accepted, quality materials and careful construction and weather-resistant features that exceeded code at that house. And he created things that last. In fact, even that playhouse, it lasted like years beyond our time in that house. And that home that we built, it strongly weathered several storms. And I'm thankful not just for the house, but for the time that my dad and I had together creating and building. And after that, years after that, Madison, Marina, and Mickey, my what do we call those, nephews and nieces, they got to the age where they would enjoy a playhouse, and my dad coordinated the construction, the assembly of a playhouse that we had purchased, and they've had that together in Jacksonville for over 10 years. And my father came from a family that didn't have a lot of education. And I hear that early on, my dad struggled in school. But there was a teacher that saw his potential and invested in him. And he excelled. From her, he recognized the value of education and of hard work. And combined with his natural intelligence and his desire to create something meaningful, he took that all the way through degrees at Georgia Tech and the University of Florida, and also acoustics programs at Penn State and some other universities. And my dad never forgot that teacher's patient investment and encouragement, and he paid it forward many times to his children and his grandchildren and many others. For example, last week, a friend of my parents stopped by to visit with my mom at Matheson Retirement Home, where they live. She shared about how much she enjoyed in interacting with my dad during her decades at work at Innovations Credit Union, one of the credit unions in Panama City, and how much she will genuinely miss him. That's just one example how through every interaction, his respectfulness and his consideration let people know that he cared about them. He created relationships. My dad could also be a little sneaky, but always for a good purpose. Here's an example of that. So when my family moved out of that house that my dad and I had built together, we started renting it. And our current renter, Don, met my dad. My dad was cleaning up my dad's lot next door to the house. And before my dad admitted that his son was Don's landlord, my dad asked slyly, "So Don, do you have a good landlord?" My dad was keeping an eye out on how his kids were doing. So when he was younger, my dad did all sorts of things, fixing cars. He skied, he golfed, he built AM, FM, and ham radios. He loved music. He was first chair at Thompson High School on clarinet, and he collected dozens of records that he would play on the hi-fi. That's not Wi-Fi. Hi-fi system, stereo system that he had assembled. And when he married and had kids, he gave up many of those hobbies. It was, but he knew it was a necessary trait because it was his priority was creating a family that would last. And that solid foundation he and my mom laid enabled their children and their grandchildren to enjoy the lives that we have today. And we have been blessed. My dad taught me many lessons, but there's two from my adult years that stand out. The first was shortly after college. I enthusiastically told him how one group of people had sort of tricked another group of people into signing up to do more than they thought they had signed up to do. And I had never seen him look so disappointed. And he told me, if you deceive someone who trusts you, it's as bad as lying, because you use their misplaced trust against them. And you are less than they think you are. That's why you got away with it. And that stuck with me for decades. I never told him, but I hope he knows, and that I never participated in or encouraged or enjoyed that type of manipulation again. The second lesson was recently when a rental property that they owned, the renters ran into some problems, and they basically trashed that house that my parents were renting out to them. And I was preparing for a long renovation. And my dad stopped me and he said, don't fix that house. Spend that time with your family instead. So he reminded me that I only had a few, well, at this point, it's like, I don't know, 6 months left with Bethany, or maybe 8 months, I don't know, before she goes to college, and a year and 8 months before Caleb does. And he was right, and I appreciate that he freed me from that burden. Even while enduring Lewy bodies disease, my dad kept his connection to our family, and he showed his determination as he came back strong after multiple illnesses and injuries. He was able to have a wonderful 50th wedding anniversary. They celebrated, and also he and my mom were named the Matheson Valentine King and Queen this year.
Oh.
Yeah. And he also kept his keen sense of humor to the very end of his life. And my sister says that he was way funnier than I was, and I'm pretty sure my kids would agree. And we will definitely miss his quick wit. So in the past few months, my dad got to visit many family members, including Brenda, who came down, Christy. And he was doing well enough to enjoy their visits. The night before my dad entered the hospital, I had actually stopped by to share the news that his granddaughter had been accepted into the honors program at the University of Central Florida, and also that my son, on the same day, had been accepted into a prestigious Disney program that he's going to get to spend a week at. So I'm thankful that my last conversation with my dad was one of celebration. He certainly left this world on a high note. So then the next morning, he went to the hospital, and 26 hours later, he found freedom from his sickness. He left peacefully as we sang and prayed around his bed. Bethany and Caleb, you know how much Granddaddy loved you and how proud he is of you. And he told everyone from his church friends to his dental hygienist friend how amazing you are. And you were an incredible wife and caregiver to our dad. And I know he was thankful for 51 years that the two of you had together. And he passed on to my sister, a joyous spirit. And I know that he loved my sister as well. And no funeral, no graveside service can capture everything good about my dad. I'm sure we've all had stories we could tell about my dad. And maybe someday we'll be together again, listening to even greater stories about my dad, with my dad. So thank you for coming to remember my father, the best dad we could ask for.